I'm with Dennis Avi Lipkin, and we're here talking about Lipkin Tours. Now, your son started an organization called Lipkin Tours. When was Lipkin Tours started?
I don't remember exactly the time. It must be at least 10 years ago. And what happened was that my son Aaron worked for about 15 years in tourism, but he was working with organizations that were bringing Jewish youth to Israel. And he was an employee, and he found himself eventually, I wouldn't say out of a job, but he didn't like his superiors who were secular and they were anti-God and anti-nationalist as Jews. And he said to me, "Daddy, you've been in 1,000 churches. They come to Israel. Can we organize them?" I said, "Sure deal." So we started Lipkin Tours together, but then I pulled out so that he could have it all on his name and not have to drag his father along, So that's his business, So anyway, so I've been over 1,000 churches. He has received some of my groups. Now he goes into entirely new groups. And the great thing about what my son is doing is that he became very interested in archaeology. And where he lives, in Samaria, in Ophrah, every so often there are different lecturers who come, archaeologists, who are not even religious. They're secular Jews. And he would go to listen to them. And these are people who were born and raised in socialist kibbutzim. And they say, you know what, we're dumbfounded because we thought there was no God. We thought there was no Bible. We thought there was no Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We thought all of this was fairy tales. And the archaeological proofs are there that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were there. Moses and Aaron were there. David and Saul and Solomon were there. The prophet Samuel was there. And everything is in the archaeology. And now we, I don't want to say we because I don't get any credit for this. This is my son's baby. But Professor Adam Zartal, rest in peace, found Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal. And this is a proof that Moses and Joshua did exist. And they found there things from 3,200 years ago with Hebrew letters on them. So this had to have been from that time. They found kosher animals, bones, from the sacrifices. In the battle days, people would sacrifice pigs and rats and all kinds of non-kosher animals. When you find an altar and you go through the ash, and you find bones of kosher animals that are 1 year old, that had to have been an Israelite altar. So this is what my son has been founding. And now the Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, actually has been to the site, and now the Muslims are trying to destroy it. And so now there's actually even a political struggle about preserving it and not letting it be destroyed by people who have a reason to destroy Jewish historical sites.
Now, are you like any other tour agency, or do you cater for a specific need?
We are I would call it a boutique tour company. And what we do is, we bring groups to say, well, we don't want to do just the Via Dolorosa tour. We don't want to do the Catholic tour. Nothing against Catholics, but we want to go to the biblical sites as we read about them in the Bible. And so our people, our Christians, are Bible believers. And they want to see Israel from an entirely different perspective.
So does that make you unique as a tour organization?
Very, very much so. Very, very much so. And we've developed kind of really like family ties with these people. They're not just friends anymore. And they come every year, once or twice, and they bring groups, and we show them things that other tour companies are not really very hot or very interested into showing them.
Do you visit organizations that are helping the people here in the land as well?
We are not I don't say we. My son's tour company focuses on the archaeological sites and getting the information out to people who want to learn about the biblical archaeology, proving the veracity of the Bible.
And what sort of places do you visit that other agencies don't visit?
Well, I don't say all the agencies don't visit, but we, like Joshua's altar, we go to Bethel, we go to Shiloh, we go to, by the way, an interesting story about Shiloh. After the Six-Day War, Israelis, went looking for the biblical places because they were all underneath the earth. They had all been destroyed and covered up with earth and everything. And so there is an Arab Christian town called the Ruins of Shiloh. And so the Israelis went there and said, "Do you know where the biblical Shiloh is?" "Oh, yeah, of course we know. It's down in the valley right here in front of us." So the Israeli archaeologists came and they started digging. They found 4 Greek Orthodox churches and monasteries. And they dug down in front of one of them, and they found a mosaic in Greek, which said, "May the Lord Jesus have mercy on the people of Shiloh." So that was bingo. But you see, This is not about Judaism or Christianity. This is about, does God exist? Is the Bible true? So we go to Shiloh. We go to Mount Eval. We go to Bethel. Then there's something very revolutionary now called the footprints. And there are these giant footprints the size of 3 football fields. And they are built like an amphitheater where people can sit around and watch the animal sacrifices and be blessed by the Kohanim. This is like a proto-altar before the temple in Jerusalem or even before the altar in Shiloh. So that's where Joshua's altar is. And also in the Tirzah Valley, there are 7 of these giant footprints. And so my son is very much a pioneer in this. And he has a drone, and he has DVDs, and he's made the DVDs. And that can be found at lipkintours.com.
Do you also visit places like Hebron, where Abraham was buried, the foundation of the faith?
I'll be honest with you, we have not yet gotten there, but we know that Hebron is on the list, and Jerusalem is on the list. And when I'm invited to speak to the groups, I talk, for example, about a meeting I had with the Vatican ambassador to Israel. When the party got started 15 years ago, I met with the Vatican ambassador, Pietro Sambi, and the Muslims were trying to say to him, well, you know what, there was never a temple in Jerusalem, that this is just a story that was made up, and the Jews have this wild imagination, you know. And so the Vatican ambassador said to them, well, you know what, if there was no temple, where did Jesus overturn the money changers' tables? Where did Jesus have his bar mitzvah in the book of Galatians? Where did he go? John 10, verse 22. He went on Hanukkah, in the Feast of the Dedication. He went to the temple in Jerusalem. So you can throw out Christianity, too, if you're throwing out the Bible and the temple. And this was a very important thing for me. And this is a Catholic ambassador of Vatican in Israel. So, listen, this work has been eye-opening in so many ways for me and for my son, and we feel it's not a business, it's a ministry. And we're just hoping for this COVID thing to be behind us so we can receive our groups again.
Now, a tour guide on a trip is important. They can really make a trip special. Do they understand the needs of the Christian tourists?
Well, actually, we have some very good guides who have been working exclusively with these Christian pilgrims, tourists. We also have a few Christian guides who work with us. And let me just say, that's not a problem at all. Christians feel very at home with us. And they do want authentic Jews to take them around. And I would say Orthodox Jews, but I myself am not Orthodox. I'm more conservative.
Is there so much for a pilgrim to learn when they come here?
It changes their lives forever. When these people go home, they become ambassadors and teachers of Israel.
Does it open up the Bible for them?
Yes, absolutely, because when you visit Israel and you see these sites, it's like, before you come to Israel, it's like looking at beautiful pictures in an album. And when you come to Israel, you're holding the crown with the gold and the diamonds, you're holding it in your hand because you're actually there walking on it. You walk where Jesus walked, you walk where the prophets walked. You can't do that, from some church in some backwood place. Excuse me, I love backwood churches, they're my favorite churches, but you have to come to Israel.
Now, COVID has been devastating. Has it been devastating for the tourist industry?
Not devastating, totally lethal. All tourism is stopped, full stop. And now they're opening up for people who want to come and have been vaccinated. But the vaccinations, as you know, there are a lot of Christians who are against the vaccination. A lot of Jews are against the vaccination. So I imagine at some stage the country will open up with PCR tests for the unvaccinated. It's a process. We have to have tourism again. And it seems like this COVID never is going to go away.
So the business has basically done nothing for 2 years?
Right. My son has been busy, though, studying archaeology and meeting with people politically. He's been in the Prime Minister's office a few times. Who knows? Maybe God wanted my son to be in politics also.
Has it been a very worrying time?
I wouldn't say worrying. I would say inconvenient. Well, we get around it. And by the way, my son and his wife got vaccinated. The kids all got vaccinated. My wife and I got vaccinated. We're not happy about it, but we're alive. We're alive, and relatively speaking, we're healthy.
Yeah. Do you have tours booked for 2022?
Listen, what we had was, in the last 2 years, we had groups that paid, and then they had to cancel. And then we said to them, do you want your money back, or do you want to reserve again for like a year from now? And they would all say, we will reserve for a year from now. There were individuals who wanted their money back. They got their money back. But basically, my son is constantly recycling groups. They want to come. And actually, the demand is pent up. The demand is increasing. These people want to come to Israel.
What's your prayer for the future for the tourism industry?
I wish that everyone in the world could come to Israel and see these places, because it would. What do we want? What do we want as Jews and Christians? We want to prove the veracity of the Bible. We don't want somebody to come and say that it's all fairy tales, that it's all fables. We even had a prime minister, Yitzhak Rabin, who said that the whole Bible is fairy tales. But that's because he was born and raised in a socialist milieu where they don't believe in God. So I think one of our problems is in dealing with people who don't believe in God. And it could be people who were born Jewish or people who were born Christian. They just don't believe in God. Yeah. And so I believe the greatness of my son's work, and whatever help I can help him with, is to get people to believe in God and believe in the veracity of the Bible, that what the Bible says is true.
And what's your website again for people who'd like to know more?
Oh, my son's website is www.lipkintours.com. Lipkin tours, tours.com.
Okay, Dennis, thank you very much.
Bless you. Thank you.